Good morning. Allow me first to recognize the cabinet colleagues at the head table and to thank them for coming. To also thank and recognize our Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Excellencies of the Diplomatic Corps, Financial Secretary, senior officials of the government who are here. I must thank our chairperson today, Mr. Lesroy Williams, for doing what he does best, assisting us in events like these. My fellow citizens and residents, I want to thank you for being a part of today's press conference, organized by the Office of the Prime Minister. This is one element of our good governance agenda in which we regularly inform, engage, educate, and update you on matters of public concern. In my address to the nation last Friday, I promised to report to you on the nature of a relief package which my cabinet would provide to our people, especially the poor and vulnerable affected by COVID-19. My government has earned wide respect as a fiscally prudent administration, but it is also a compassionate one. This explains our comprehensive stimulus package in response to the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. Our response at this time is taking place against the backdrop of the very destabilizing impact of COVID-19 and government tax revenues. Inflows have fallen significantly on account of several tax waivers, deferrals, and incentives given over the last year. To date, my government has paid salaries, wages, and pensions to nearly 10,000 persons who are part of the government establishment, the government auxiliary employees, STEP recruits, and pensioners. Between January to June 2021, my government has spent $164.3 million on employee-related benefits. I repeat, $164.3 million on employee benefits. You multiply that by 2, you get a picture of what it costs to support these 10,000 persons for the full year, over $300+ million. Truth be told, this government has been a model employer and it has refrained from either severing employees or reducing their benefits. In response to the pandemic, we have reduced corporation taxes from 33% to 25%, thereby mitigating the harsh impact on cash flows of businesses. We went further. We reduced by 50%, from 4% to 2%, tax due by unincorporated businesses, which are mainly small and medium-sized enterprises. These initiatives were intended also to encourage businesses to retain many of their employees, or as many as they could. Indeed, in the initial stimulus package, we did tie these discounted tax to businesses retaining at least 75% of their employees. In sum, this government was and remains a people-centered government. You may ask, how are we able to do so much to date in response to this devastating pandemic and economies all around the world, large and small? And the answer is found in the words of the IMF in its recently concluded statement in July 2021. The IMF says, and I quote, St. Kitts and Nevis entered the COVID-19 pandemic from a position of fiscal strength. End of quote. The IMF went further to state that prompt government action helped to contain the pandemic's public health impact. The response measures effectively mitigated the pandemic's human costs, with St. Kitts and Nevis having had the lowest per capita case count in the Western Hemisphere and no mortalities in 2020, end of quote. The COVID-19 pandemic has created an extraordinary challenge to both the private and public sectors in St. Kitts and Nevis. It has been an existential threat to life and livelihoods around the world. It has caused the death of close to 4 million persons around the world, the equivalent of 255 million job losses globally have been attributed to COVID-19. From the inception of the pandemic in 2020, the government of St. Kitts and Nevis instituted a number of initiatives to ease the financial burden that this pandemic was expected to have on businesses and individuals, and at the same time stimulate economic activity in the Federation. These initiatives complemented our existing public assistance programs, such as the Poverty Alleviation Program, popularly referred to as the PAP, the payment of examination fees for students, school meals for our students, the provision of books for our students, food vouchers to the needy, medical assistance to those in need, early childhood subsidies, residential services for the elderly, and rent support for the poor and vulnerable. Our Poverty Alleviation Program has cost the government $70 million from its inception in December 2018 to May 2021. For the year so far, we have spent over $16 million to render PAP support to thousands of families in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Last year, we spent over $37 million in social safety net programs. The wide range of them, I have enumerated some of them before. Indeed, St. Kitts and Nevis, from all records, has one of the most comprehensive social safety nets in the region. These initiatives instituted by your government also demonstrate a strong commitment to rebuilding the economy. This is also evidenced by the robust support to various sectors. Take, for example, construction and real estate sectors, two key pillars of the economy, have benefited from the government support, and I'll just name a few of the initiatives. We reduced the rate of stamp duty from 10% to 2.5% on the sale or transfer of real property, and this initiative will go until December 2021. This was announced in our budget. In terms of the first-time homeowners initiative, or under this initiative, first-time homeowners can receive duty-free concessions on building materials required for the construction of their first home. For the year so far, that is January to July, 78 persons have received concessions on building materials totaling $12.3 million. Between 2015 and present, that is during the tenure of our administration, some 795 applications were approved under the program. I repeat, since 2015 to present, 795 applications were approved. Put another way, separate and distinct from the government housing programs led primarily by the NHC and the homes renovated, repaired in response to the two last significant hurricanes which we had, the government has assisted 795 other individuals in constructing their homes by waiving of the duties. This is an excellent track record and home ownership by my government, and I feel certainly proud of this. We give God thanks for the blessings that have allowed us to contribute to property ownership in this, the land of our birth, in that way. Additionally, we have provided tax exemptions on building materials and equipment used during the construction of large developments, hotels, and other developments. The government employees mortgage facility was administered by the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis. And then last day through the budget, we indicated that we will broaden those who could apply for home mortgage assistance. And so we developed what you may call the Citizens Mortgage Facility at the bank, where you get perhaps the lowest or one of the lowest interest rate on mortgage financing. The monies for this year were advanced, I am advised, in March of 2021. And between this short window, March to June, 40 mortgages were approved at the bank, totaling $6.4 million. The foregoing initiatives related to the construction and real estate sectors are expected to produce benefits to homeowners, obviously, developers, and a wide range of individuals engaged directly and indirectly with the construction sector. We are talking here about jobs and incomes to our citizens and residents. My government continues to provide ongoing support to the agricultural sector and the small business sector. And I want to identify some of that support because in the context of COVID-19, issues of food security loom large. How we are going to eat, how are we going to live? What if the boat doesn't come from Dominica? What happens? What if there's a disruption in the supply chain with respect to chicken, pork, beef, or any of the items for food which we import in such large quantities? The government, therefore, injected $15 million to boost production and to ensure agricultural food security. Over this period, the Ministry of Agriculture has allocated additional lands for farming. We have provided a temporary waiver of water payments for farmers. The water is critical to agriculture. We have the investment in agriculture, I'm pleased to report, has returned dividends. During the period January to May 2021, the dollar value of crop and livestock production rose by 44%, from $3.6 million in 2020 to $5.2 million in 2021. Significant movement. Crop output increased by 27%. Livestock output increased by 90% over the period. The Department of Agriculture has attributed this success to the stimulus package. Overall, fish landings increased by 51% for the period, January to May 2021, compared to the same period in 2020. We are therefore moving in the right direction to food security. We are not yet there, but we are moving in the right direction when we see this significant movement in the values. We will know when we are there, when fewer boats are coming. We will know when we are there, when the chicken we are eating in our hotels, in our restaurant, is produced here and is of the highest quality. Yes, we will know. For now, we could take comfort in the fact that based on those statistics, we are moving in the right direction. I want at this point to commend Permanent Secretary Ron Collins, for he has been working a plan, and the plan has brought results. I commend him, and through him, all those who are involved in the agricultural sector, including our partners like CARDI, AICA, and FAO, for their contribution. But most importantly, the work of our farmers come to mind. Names like Mr. Politics involving livestock, Debbie Gilbert Davis at Phillips, one of the most vibrant female farmers, Mrs. Pemberton in Old Road, George Jeffrey in Tabernacle, Shahid Williams in St. Paul's, the Henderson brothers in Sadlers, and Marsh, of course, my good Rastaman friend in Molyneux, among hundreds of others who are making a contribution. I want equally to mention a good brother, Mawson, Eastern Mawson, in the Buckleys area. I want to turn now to our support to the small business sector, and note in particular that in our last budget, we in fact proposed $3 million for the continuation of the Fresh Start program. As at June, I am advised that 45 loan applications were approved under that program, totaling $3.1 million. We have extended bond facilities at our customs for small businesses unable to cover customs duties on the importation of vehicles and commercial goods. The short point is that in almost every sector, the government has responded in a targeted way, bringing relief to those most in need of it. We looked after those who one may consider the large businesses who would pay their corporations taxes, dropped that dramatically by some 25% or thereabout. We looked after the small business entities, reduced their taxes by 50%. We have looked after the farmers, and we have looked after the fishers. And so we could feel a sense of satisfaction that the government continues to look after the interests of all the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. The extended stimulus initiatives, most of which I've made reference to, expired on the 30th of June 2021, such as the tax concession, the reductions. Given that the pandemic persists and it continues to adversely impact the current economic and social environment, Cabinet yesterday gave approval for the initiatives outlined above to be extended until 31st of December 2021. So in other words, we are providing additional relief, extended relief to unincorporated business, to corporations, etc., during this period. In addition to these continuing measures, my government proposes further initiatives to help the less fortunate to better cope with the financial hardship caused by COVID-19. And indeed, we propose these with a view of further stimulating the economy, that is, getting the economy back to work again, so that we can deliver and a stronger and safer future. I want now to outline these new initiatives, and I make note that we perhaps are the only government in the hemisphere to have come in 2021 to propose new initiatives. We are grateful for that, but it's a situation we do not take for granted. We have to ensure that we continue to be prudent in the management of the fiscal affairs, not just for today, but to look forward to the future with all the vicissitudes of life for which the government would have to intervene. The new initiatives. We will implement another income support program in the sum of $15 million to alleviate hardships on our citizens who remain unemployed since March 2020. These citizens, of course, must be registered with the Social Security Board. The Social Security Board then will be able to verify whether or not you have returned to work. A monthly stipend of $1,000 will be paid for the next 3 months. However, persons who have already received more than $15,000 in severance payment after March 2020 would not now be eligible to access the program. Persons receiving assistance under the PAP would only be entitled to receive an additional $500 under the Income Support Program. Again, the Income Support Program is targeting some of those persons out there who have not worked since March 2020. Some of these people may be persons on the PAP. Recall the PAP was set with a criteria, or one of the criterion was that the household income must be not more than $3,000. So if for some reason you are working, your income was less than $3,000, you're getting the PAP of $500. Since March, you got laid off and you haven't found good luck yet. Instead of getting another $1,000, what you will benefit from is an additional $500, so that the total support you get from the government equates to $1,000. 500 on the PAP, 500 match up from the new income support program. Persons already in receipt of a government stipend of $1,000 would not now enjoy a further $1,000. And the reason for this must become obvious. We want to serve the largest number of persons who are adversely affected by the pandemic. And we do not want to give one person, as we would say in the good old days, if you go up with an old grandmother, we now put in relation to this. So you're getting something, you can't get another set, and somebody else out there in the community who is in need, that person is not allowed to receive a benefit. Our priority is to support those most in need at this time and to support as many persons as possible. In other words, we want to be fair and we want to be equitable in the reach and support, in the reach of the support which the government is and will be providing. The second initiative, we will waive commercial rent for 6 months, July to December 2021, for small businesses which lease space from the government through the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. These would include small businesses that rent booths at the ferry and bus terminals, the Amina Craft Market, and the Pelican Mall. And I suspect, Minister Grant, we could add those down at Black Rocks, assuming that they have been paying to this list. Once you are renting commercial space from the government for the next 6 months will basically waive the rent. So that's one additional burden you don't have to, at this time, be concerned about. We encourage private sector landlords of commercial space to give some measure of relief to their tenants. There are persons on 4th Street, down at Port Zante, all over the country, renting from others at Frigate Bay and elsewhere. And they are saying, well, business is a bit slow. Could our landlords help us? We are encouraging such landlords to give a measure of relief. We can't dictate how much, but we say at this time of national difficulty and global difficulty, you have a good tenant who is now experiencing challenges. Let your conscience be your guide and, of course, provide some relief. For our own part, this is what we will do. We will further reduce the VAT rate for 3 months, July to September, from 10% to 5% on commercial rent for small businesses with 25 or less employees. To benefit, you must have, of course, a valid business license. In other words, we will give you some relief. The VAT you would normally have paid in relation to commercial rental space, I am advised, was operating at about 10%. The government wants to bring some relief to you. We have cut the VAT by 50% to assist you. And if your landlord is a very nice landlord, he will come substantially in good measure to bring further relief to you. And we hope that the landlords are listening and will take note of what the government is doing. We will also ask those of you who are tenant, check the rate of VAT that is being added to your bill. It is not 17%, should have been 10%, and now it should be 5%. That is what the government can do. The government has inserted itself, if you will, in the private contractual arrangement to bring some relief in an area where it could. And so we are trying to help, and we ask the landlords to also do their part. The fourth initiative, we will reinstate the annual import duty exemption for 16 tires. This one is for the H-bus drivers. We will reinstate the annual import duty exemption for 16 tires. That is 4 tires per quarter, 4 pairs of brake pads, and 3 pairs of brake shoes for the H passenger buses. I want, and the government wants, to thank the bus operators who understand the reality of COVID-19 and appreciated that life must come first. Some of them very readily understood that if we are to control the spread, if we are to control the virus, they couldn't be carrying the same number of passengers as they did before the community spread. So I want to say thank you for appreciating that. We understand and we appreciate that for you, it has been a sacrifice. For the entire country, it has been a sacrifice. For the entire world, it has been a very difficult time. But we are in it together. So in good times and bad, we have to be there for one another. I want the bus operators to know that my government cares for you and your family. So in addition to reinstating the annual import duty exemption on 16 tires, seems like a lot to me, 4 tires per quarter, 4 pairs of brake pads, 3 pairs of brake shoes. The government will go further, and we will provide a fuel subsidy of $400 per month to passenger bus operators for 3 months. $400 per month to passenger bus operators for the next 3 months. This is real good compassion, and I want to commend the Cabinet for agreeing to provide this support to the bus operators. Again, a tangible demonstration that the government understands the hardship that we have been put through. And while this may not cover it 100%, it is a tangible demonstration that we are with you in good times and in bad. And you would hardly find any government as generous as we have been in this regard. Initiative 6, we will waive the stall fees for vendors using the public market for the next 6 months. All and new vendors, those who are on 4th Street who will not go back there, those who were down in the terminal and elsewhere who will not go back there. For the next 6 months, the government is saying you do not have to pay the market keeper any more stall fees. You are able, you sign up, you observe the protocol, you be on your best behavior, you attend to your customers, and you attempt to get as much business as you can. Indeed, for my visits there is the best thing, one of the best things we have done for vendors. Because everyone now have access to the hundreds of persons who go inside the market. Inside the market, every customer must come, observe the protocol, and they are able to patronize whomsoever they wish. So, Ms. Crossley for many years would complain, Mr. Prime Minister, it is unfair that we inside here, and they outside there, and the customers wouldn't come inside. Now fairness has returned. Everyone has to go inside. And not just go inside in an orderly, regulated way. Go inside observing the protocols, because we have to learn to live with COVID-19. So you have to do the hand sanitizing, the wearing of masks. And if you're not prepared to do any of these things, then the security forces will not let you in. Each one then has to protect each other. And when I visit there one Saturday, several customers come up. They said, this is how the market's supposed to be. Mr. Prime Minister, thank you, thank you. There was a gentleman, a young man from St. Vincent. He said, I've been here for about 15 years doing this and never come into the market until now. He didn't know was so lovely in there, look. So we are encouraging you to utilize the facility. And we have said to the Ministry of Agriculture, whatever else we need to do to make it as convenient for those who come, we will do. We will do some repairs to the roofing. We will paint up and refurbish a number of the stalls so that we have really a good place and the best place in which the vendoring can continue to take place. Another initiative, number 7, we will reduce for the next 6 months in an effort to boost visitor arrival. That is, we will reduce travel tax for the next 6 months in order to boost visitor arrival here. And in particular, it is part of the conversation we have been having at the heads of government level to do a regional initiative where every member state would reduce the travel tax as one incentive to boost inter-regional travel, because inter-regional travel has been impacted adversely by the COVID-19 pandemic. And we want to make it easier for our people to visit one another again. Of course, this will have benefits for the taxi operators and others engaged in hospitality service who will be the primary beneficiaries of increased arrivals into the Federation. At times of challenge and difficulties, women are exposed. And so the government has taken note of the potential that more women are subject to abuse in these difficult times. We will therefore increase support to battered women through the Ministry of Social Development. In other words, women who are abused in difficult circumstances, they may be out of job, they may be being taken advantage of. The government wants to put an end to that. And so the government will provide additional resources to the Ministry of Social Development for them to intervene and to help stamp out the abuses and provide support to victims of abuse, thereby giving them a better sense of empowerment and independence. This is critical. The women, we have to protect them, and we have to defend them. And the literature will say that during the course of the pandemic, you can have more physical altercations, violence about women and children even. And so the government in this new stimulus arrangement, we have looked out specifically to the vulnerable women in our society. Women and children. So the 9th initiative says that our differently able children always need a strong, supportive friend. And the government will assist households with such children with a stipend to help them over the next 6 months. Again, differently able children, some may be students at the special education unit, some may be students at Addis, some may be students at the new facility when they were involved with that. They were to set up at Fort Lands, but the Autism Center, etc. The government will render support for those persons. And finally, the government, through the Ministry of Public Infrastructure and Utilities, has approached SCELEC, and SCELEC will provide a deferral on electricity bills for the next 3 months. For the next 3 months then, particularly for residential persons, you don't have to worry about electricity bills. For 3 months, at the end of it, you will make 6 months? 3 months. 3 months. At the end of that, of course, you could make your payment plan to deal with what you have been, would have accumulated. So we are trying to bring some sense of ease to the people at this time. There's one other category of persons that we are concerned about, and that is persons with their mortgages at the bank, some of whom may have suffered job losses. And what we have done is that I have approached the governor of the central bank, and we have asked that he put on the agenda of the Monetary Council consideration for the extension of the moratorium and mortgage payments to commercial banks. That, of course, should end, I think it is, in September 2021. So we're asking that the central bank make consideration to put before the Monetary Council for that facility to be extended. What that does was that it provided some leeway for those who owed the bank to be able to make relatively reasonable arrangement, including the restructuring of their loans, which reflect, as it were, their financial situation at the particular moment in time. The bank then gives a special dispensation to the commercial bank so that that readjustment is not portrayed in a negative way in their books. So again, we are looking forward with optimism to that coming before the Monetary Council, and we reasonably expect that that request, once put, will find favor. In concluding, this Team Unity government promises a stronger and safer future. And with God's help, we are determined to continue our progress in delivering on this promise, even in the face of a global crisis that has crippled health systems and economies around the world. With God's help, we will overcome the impacts of this pandemic. I have outlined initiatives that we have designed to stimulate economic activity and provide economic relief to our citizens and residents. It is my view And it is the collective view of the Cabinet that these initiatives, they are comprehensive, they are targeted. We have sought to find support and relief to some of the most vulnerable and the poorest of the poor in our midst. And they are far-reaching in terms of the transformation that they can bring. They certainly would add stimulation to the economy and put us on a better path for ongoing progress and growth. The pandemic, of course, is not yet over, and we do not know how soon it will end, because we're hearing all over the world about new variants. The Delta variant, now we are hearing of the Delta Plus in Spain and in other parts of the world, adding a new dilemma to the management of this difficult virus. Vaccination, of course, still remains the most critical tool in this fight against COVID-19 and its extensive, devastating ripple effects. Across the world, the best scientific evidence indicates that vaccination offers a critical layer of protection to individuals, and it provides the best possible outcomes to communities and countries. I therefore continue to urge and encourage citizens and residents to seize the opportunity to become vaccinated against this dangerous and deadly virus. May I remind you that the vaccination program starts today, and it continues tomorrow, Friday, and will continue for the foreseeable future. Of course, we are reminded of the truism, a nation's health is a nation's wealth. To get wealth, to get the best results, we have to have healthy people in the workplaces, making their contribution to the development of the country, adding value day by day. I believe we all want the country to get fully back to work soon and in a safe way. And the best contribution any of us can make to getting the country back to a better state of vibrancy, and of course to ensure the safe opening of our economy very shortly, is to get vaccinated without further delay. More than ever before, the decisions of every person have the propensity to affect a larger number of people. Therefore, personal responsibility is a significant factor in the fight against the pandemic. Let us not think only of ourselves, but let us think of others. Let us think of how our actions may affect others in our homes, in our workplaces, everywhere, especially how they will affect the most vulnerable in our society. The elderly people around us, for example, the students in our schools who at this particular moment in time, unlike in my day, the vaccine is not available to them, or at least not globally available. Some countries have started to vaccinate younger people. In our day, we got the vaccine that helped us to deal with the mumps and all the other things that were there. And so that was the norm that you look forward to, and that gave you a sense of protection. Those under 18 now who cannot get the vaccine, they are now part of the broader, vulnerable group that we must protect. We in St. Kitts saw how that could destabilize learning and education for our children. We saw how we had to close our schools in response to the scare over COVID-19. The best way we can protect those children and their learning is for every adult, every father, every mother to be determined, I will be vaccinated, not just for myself, but because I love my children. So I want to encourage all not only to get vaccinated, but to observe the protocols. Wear your face mask properly, meaning over your mouth and your nose, especially when you are outside your homes. Sanitize or wash your hands frequently, and of course, abide by the physical and social distancing. I want to remind you, if the place is crowded, do not go there. The lines look too long and disorderly, do not go there to add to it, and then you yourself complain it. So you have to be wise, and you have to change your behavior. It only takes one person to create further havoc in our society by that person either not being vaccinated or not abiding by the protocols. Let me then end on a note of thank you to all our citizens and residents who have stepped forward so far. Some 69.4% of every adult understand the urgency of now, and they have gone forward to be vaccinated. Thank you very much for doing so. I invite those who have not yet gone to please go as soon as you can to get yourself vaccinated. For us to move to the brighter day, for us to turn the corner, for us to achieve the stronger and safer future, we must unite. At this moment of greatest challenge, unite as one people so that we can defeat this deadly virus. Thank you again, and at this point I would want to pause to entertain any questions from the media.